Now this week we'll be hearing and have already heard from different people who have been demonstrating rural community resilience by localizing our food systems and also helping to shape a green economic recovery after the devastating impacts of COVID by supporting our local farmers and food makers and craftspeople. I'm Stuart Gazinski from Forth Environment Link, and if you like today's session, please follow FEL through its other social media channels, and you can find out much more about our climate action network and follow different events that we have. Before I introduce our speakers, just a wee reminder on top of what Steffi just said, that this session is being recorded. You can put yourselves, hide your video, and if you can keep yourselves on mute until such time if you'd like to ask a question, that would be great. But because it's being recorded, you can catch up if you miss any of it on our YouTube channel later on, or invite your friends to view the discussion as well. So today we're delighted to welcome three speakers that all have something in common. They all love food and drink, but they hate unsustainable waste that the food and drink can often be responsible for. So they'll each be telling us what they're doing to reduce single-use packaging and instill less wasteful habits in their communities. And we'll be asking them how this zero waste approach will change the way we shop in the future, and if that's good news for local producers too. So today's going to look like this. We're going to give each producer around about 10 minutes to tell their stories, and then we'll take any questions at the end. If you have a burning question, you're worried you might forget it, please do put it in the chat, and we'll come to it at the end as well. So that just leaves me to introduce our speakers. Today, unfortunately, we are one speaker down. Susan from the Greenway in Blair is unable to join us at the very last minute, but we do have three fantastic speakers for you today. We have Heather, who founded Bad Gal Boocha in Fife in 2019 to brew small batch handcrafted kombucha and really put sustainability at the heart of that operation there. We have Jerry Boyle, who has 15 years of industry experience and is the hospitality sector manager at Zero Waste Scotland. But first up, I'd like to introduce you all to Ruth Glasgow, who is the co-founder of the Hub G63, which incidentally hosts the Balfron Neighbour Food Market, and has also recently taken over the village shop in Drimmen. Drimmen's near Loch Lomond, for anybody whose geography is as bad as mine. And they use that shop to sell sustainable, eco-friendly goods with a zero waste approach. So Ruth, could I please ask you to introduce the Hub G63, give a little bit of background, and tell us more about your thinking behind the shop you've taken over?
Sure. So the Hub G63 is, we call it a food and sustainability hub, although it actually started without actually having a physical hub, and we just went to different community events and things. But its journey, I suppose, started a couple of years ago in Dumbarton. I was actually hoping Jane McIntyre, who is just setting up the neighbourhood in Dumbarton, I was hoping she might be able to join us, because the Hub G63, I think, started with her, because I was involved in setting up another social enterprise in Dumbarton called Rag and Bone, which was a tool library, which evolved into a plastic-free shop, not food, but more bathroom and kitchen items. And Jane very much helped me and another lady do that. She supported us and kind of incubated the business, I suppose. I then left to set up the Hub G63 because I felt Dumbarton, although it's close to Drimmen, wasn't quite my community. And I really felt it needed to be very localised, what I wanted to do. And I also wanted more of a focus on food. And I wanted a zero waste food shop, not just plastic-free toiletries, etc. Not that I'm minimising that at all. And then the social enterprise in Dumbarton, which I'd helped set up, merged with Jane's local crafts social enterprise. So you mentioned crafters a second ago, Stuart. So Made in West Dunbartonshire, which is similar to Made in Stirling, is local crafters, and she now has a shop which has local crafts and zero waste food as well. So that's where the journey started, and I've still got really close ties with her, and we have a really close collaborative working relationship, sharing orders so that we're minimising journeys, deliveries, etc. So back to the Hub G63. It started in the village hall, storing everything in a cupboard, using the village hall kitchen to weigh out all of the food that we were sending to Stirling neighbourhood and Balfron neighbourhood. So it wasn't strictly zero waste. We used paper bags, but there was no way of making it 100% zero waste whilst only serving the neighbourhood markets. It just wouldn't work. So, and also a lot of it was, I mean, it's like rice isn't local to Scotland, let alone Drimmen. But it was, you know, we were a local food business, I suppose, so still supporting the local food economy. That was September last year that we set up Neighbourhood Balfron, and in April this year, mid-pandemic, we opened a shop in Drimmen, a tiny village dependent on tourism. So a lot of people thought we were absolutely crazy to do that, but it had always been the plan. It's not like we decided, let's just open a shop now. It had always been the plan, so we thought we have to stick to the plan. And so we now have an actual physical hub in Drimmen, which serves the immediate rural community around us, bringing access to sustainable food and local food, because up until we opened the shop and opened the market, you would have to travel quite a distance to get local food, which makes no sense. And it makes no sense to have to drive for half an hour to find sustainably packaged food. So they were the grounding ideas behind the Hub G63, were to bring access to a sustainable lifestyle to the rural community, if that makes sense. And something really beautiful that has happened, I think, at our shop in the past couple of months is one person brought some glut from their garden to the shop and said, can you redistribute this? So we did. And now every week we have people, the same people and different people, new people, bringing the glut, the excess produce from their garden to the shop. And then we've got loads of people coming in just to take it. So we've got a little donation tin, but the idea is it's free. We're just redistributing it. So that's a whole new element that just kind of happened. I knew that when we actually got the physical hub and not just ideas and Facebook posts, I knew things would grow and extra things would happen in that way. We also have a community garden in Drimmen. That was actually the first thing we did. That was even before neighbourhood. And the whole idea had been community days, getting everybody together, and we managed a couple of them before lockdown happened. And what we organised were 12, maybe 13 different local families took on the garden a week at a time. So, you know, we could manage that with social distancing. We still, in a sense, had community growing and building community through food. And volunteers that helped in the garden could take produce. If there was anything else, we would take it to the shop as well. And again, it was being redistributed in that way. Something surprising that I found in the shop is people I never thought would become regulars are coming back daily or weekly or several times a week. And they love what we're doing, that they can bring their empty washing up liquid bottle and fill it up. They can bring a tub and get the pasta in it or the rice. And yeah, it's I can already see a new, what am I trying to say? It's community. It's just we've always had a really tight knit community, but it's strengthened. It's really nice. I'm stumbling over my words. I can't quite find the words. It's just really lovely, I think, is what I'm trying to say. And there's nothing like a global pandemic to bring people together and to highlight the importance of local food and sustainable food and having it on your doorstep, and everybody getting together to make sure that everybody has access to food, which our neighbour food market, I'm still just gobsmacked at what happened. So we were averaging about £600 a week, and then 2 weeks into lockdown we were at £4,000 a week, and that went on for a couple of weeks, and then it tailed off. A couple of spikes here and there, and we're now sitting maybe 2,000 is our average, but that feels like a quiet week to us, when, you know, there was a time 600, 700 felt, oh, do we need an extra person for today? And now 2,000 is like, yeah, whatever, we'll do it. We do have 4 different collection points though, so that helps to maintain the social distancing. And, you know, we've got so many volunteers, which is another beautiful thing that has come out of the past 6 months. The people that are willing to invest in local business, local food, community resilience, everything. So I could keep talking. I don't know how long I've been talking.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. If you want to make a final point, you've got a minute or two, or we can sort of come back to you with questions.
Let me see at my scribbled notes, which I did 5 seconds before logging on. Yeah, I think I mentioned the shop in Dumbarton. We also have close links to the zero waste shop in Dunblane, way ahead, and that's Rosemary Hunter that runs that. And I think I've always felt that, although what I'm thinking now is ultra local food, it doesn't even feel local enough to get food from 30 miles away, because actually we need it on our doorstep right now. But I've always felt that even though we're talking local, networks and collaboration, that's what resilience is. And so we've got close ties with the shop in Dumbarton, close ties with the shop in Dunblane, close ties with Stirling Neighbourhood and the Dumbarton Neighbourhood now, and Marion, who's here. Hello, I can see you now. Marion's a really good friend and has been for years. She used to live close to me, but is now in the process of setting up a Twynham neighbourhood, I think, or yeah, down that way anyway.
Well, yeah, most of my days I'm thinking, gosh, I should never have left Bremen, because I'd be working with you now. But, you know, it's all the same. It's like we had to split, you know, and then, yeah. So yeah, it's like, yeah, neighborhood in Twynham and the zero waste van, a refill service.
Of course, yeah, exactly, yeah. It's just, I think if you can build networks and have different people in different places and everybody can support each other, and so much more can come from that. There's probably a gardening analogy in there, which I can't think of right now, but things will grow. The end. That was my final point.
Sorry, thank you, Ruth. I was struggling to find my mute button for a second there.
That's okay.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic introduction to both the hub, the market you run, and to the shop, and some really fascinating points I'm sure we'll come back to as well. I'm not sure, are we having, Steffi, the running order, are we having?
I think it was Heather next from Bag Gal Boocha.
Okay, I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. Thank you very much. So I'd like to introduce Heather, who from Bag Gal Boocha in Fife. And Heather, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about Bag Gal Boocha and how you're tackling the problem of packaging and sustainability in general through your production company, your kombucha brewing business.
Yeah, can you hear me all right? Yeah, all good, that's fine. Yeah, so I mean, I started out last year, just kind of kind of on a whim. But I'd done like a little beach clean at Ely, and like, you know, I've seen like the little bits of plastic and stuff like that. So when I've been trying to do my stuff, you know, I'm trying to make it so it is like, you know, either like you can return it, or, you know, there's no real waste. But yeah, because, you know, when I done that beach clean, all the little bits of plastic were like from like bottles and stuff like that. And I was like, if I'm going to start doing this, I'm not going to add to it. You know, that's like totally not what I wanted to do at all. And I worked really hard to try and, you know, find ways and means of, you know, doing things. So like we package everything in glass bottles, so which is, you know, obviously better than plastic. And now we take them back, which is like, you know, probably the best part. I'm so excited about that. And I was using paper labels because I thought, well, they're going to be better than plastic. But, you know, along the road, you have issues with your paper and it ripping, and so many other things that went wrong with that one. And there was like loads and loads of waste from even, you know, like taking the labels off the paper, stick them on the bottle, you'd end up with piles of sheets that you can't recycle because they've still got like the plastic glue and stuff on them. So recently we've changed it so that, sorry, my cat's decided to join me as well, obviously. He's not interested in me at any other time. So yeah, so now we've just got little tags on the bottle that are made of paper, like, you know, you can recycle them, it's fine. And they're tied on with hemp string, so you can put that in the compost bin if you want. Or you can, I was trying to say to people, like, you could collect it, make like a little friendship bracelet, but I think that's possibly me just getting like way too into it. But yeah, it's just like, I mean, my whole thing as well, like, you know, I think a lot of like bigger companies, they will just put, you know, the responsibility of the waste on the consumer. And it's like, well, I mean, why? Like, why are you panning that off? Like, these people are making you money, so you're just panning everything off onto them. We're not going to do that here. So yeah, I've been coming home from markets with crates full of bottles, which makes me so happy. It's unreal. Mum gets dead excited as well when she's taking bottles back. She's like, oh my God, we got 4. So it needs to pick up a bit of momentum, but it'll get there eventually, I'm sure. Because I know that I think it's been pushed back to 2022 now, but they're going to be putting out that scheme so like all like drinks containers have to be brought back, and it's like a Scotland-wide scheme, but obviously with the pandemic and stuff, that's been stopped for just now. So that's going to be rolled out for like any sort of single-use container, but I don't actually know the proper ins and outs of it. So we're just kind of, you know, not waiting another 2 years to roll out something. That's just stupid. So yeah, that's what we do. I mean, in terms of like production and stuff as well, you know, I kind of think like you can buy things and like they look sustainable and their package is being sustainable, and that's fine. But the actual process behind it is just waste, and, you know, like stuff's come in plastic, and like, you know, the ingredients or whatever, they're not local. It's just like the end product looks great and people are then duped into buying it. So like with me and like making the kombucha, like I try to work with like any sort of local business that I can, which is difficult when you're making something out of tea, which is coming from miles away. But I did try and get Scottish tea, but it costs an absolute fortune. So I tried to grow my own, and that's going to take like another 5 years. So I've recently started working with Donna, who runs Unravel Tea up in Aberdeen, and she has like a direct link with the farmers. So I've got tea arrived, I think it's arrived now, but it's come direct from the farmers, and, you know, they're having a rough time with COVID and stuff as well. So at least, you know, it cuts out that middleman. It's not working with, well, it's kind of working with a local business, but obviously, you know, it's better for the actual producer there. I'm trying to think what else we do. Yeah, if I'm buying like, you know, fruit and herbs and stuff like that for like flavouring the kombucha, I don't like bulk buy it and then, you know, throw stuff away. I buy it fresh on the day, which sometimes causes an issue because I forget that I need to buy the stuff. But it's fine because nothing's getting wasted. It's just, you know, it's an extra trip. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of focusing on, you know, what's coming from where, and, you know, like how the stuff that I'm receiving is being packaged. like it's just, there's like so many little annoying things as well that happen, and I'm like constantly changing bits and pieces, so like nothing's ever the same, and then that really annoys me. But also like even little bits, like I was getting the thread, I was buying that from an Etsy seller because I was, well, that's fine, you know, that'll put some money there and whatever, and it was coming, like, you know, it was just like loose thread, it was in an envelope, it was brilliant. And the last time I put an order in, it came, you know, on a plastic bobbin wrapped in plastic, and it said it had come from China, and I was like, well, you've just duped me, haven't you? So I need to go and look for another thread, lady. If anybody knows one, yeah, no, just let me know. And even, you know, like through COVID and stuff like that, we were getting like sugar in like paper sacks, and that was brilliant. And then all of a sudden, the supplier changed, you know, who it was that they were getting the sugar from. And it was coming in a plastic bag, and I think it was by British Sugar. So that's like, you know, there's a political aspect to that as well. And I was like, oh, no. But we changed it again. We're back to normal. Everything's fine. But yeah, it's you know, I think it's definitely important to be making sure that, you know, you're not just going, oh, well, you know, it looks sustainable, and, you know, there's not actually any machinery involved in the process. Like the only energy that goes into making kombucha is when you boil the water to make the tea, and like we bottle everything by hand and stuff like that. And, you know, like the brewery runs on like sustainable energy. So yeah, it's like, oh, well, you know, that's fine. But if you're adding in loads and loads of different bits and pieces and just kind of, you know, not being true to it, like it just doesn't work. Like I think if we're trying to, you know, help out with the whole sort of zero waste aspect of things, you know, you need to do it properly. And that's what I'm all about. So, oh, thank you very much for that. I think what else we do, because I get dead into rubbish. Like, yeah, people hate me for it. Like I had like a pallet. So like if I take my pallet, break it all down, you know, it's got the plastic sheet in, and it's got like other bits and pieces, and it's got like these corrugated plastic bits that like separate up the pallet. And I was like, no, I'm going to use that for like anything and everything. So I've got a bench made out of a pallet outside. I was going to make like art and stuff like that on the big corrugated bits of plastic, but I've not done that yet. But I'm keeping them. I'm not getting rid of them. They're staying with me. We're like lining planters with like, you know, the plastic that comes off of like around the pallet. And the last pallet we got there on Friday, Mum's like, "Ooh, is that cellophane? I'll have that, keep that nice." So she's got that. And there's more bits, and she's like, "We'll take those for painting, we'll take that." I've already got somebody who wants the pallet in Anne Struthers. It's a process, like, but I love it. It's brilliant. So dead into rubbish and dead into not making rubbish and take my rubbish back. So
thank you so much, Heather. That's absolutely fantastic. It's such a good insight. It's a really complex world. You really kind of took us on a deep dive into, you know, thinking about everything from the twine around the bottles, and how things, you know, where things come from, and the food justice element, or the politics involved in that. It's a bit of a minefield, I imagine, and I'm sure there'll be some questions on that.
Yeah. I mean, it is a minefield, but you know, it's just one of these things. If you're gonna, like I said, if you're gonna do it, you should probably be doing it right. It is kind of stressful, and you could just be like, oh, well, do you know what, it doesn't matter. But you know, it does matter. You know, even if everybody's doing little bits and pieces, like we're gonna get there. I just don't understand the whole like, oh, well, one person has to do it all. And to be fair, I don't really understand how the little people have to do it all. But that's just, we're not going to go down that road. Actually, I thought of another cool thing. So I've just moved premises to Coopermuir. So I'm setting up the butchery in Coopermuir, and it's on the old college farm. So next to the college farm, there's an orchard that was like, I think it's been abandoned for like 3 or 4 years. So we got permission to collect all the apples off the trees, because it's a huge, like, it's not just like a couple of trees, you know, it's like massive. So Lisa, who makes my apple juice at East Nuke Orchards, she's just down the coast from me. She's about 20 miles away. She's come along and she's picked all the apples, so that now the apple juice I'll be using in the future is made with the apples that are like 200 meters from the butchery, and you know, otherwise they would have just like rotted in the ground again. So, you know, it's kind of, I quite like working with other, you know, producers on little bits and pieces. To be fair, that was Mum that orchestrated that one for me. But yeah, that's exciting. That was like the big news I got last week, and I was like, I need to remember this. So there you go.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And remember, guys, if you've got any thoughts or comments, you can put them in the chat, or we'll have time for questions verbally at the end as well. So, oops, sorry, I've just done something very to my screen. Forgive me. Right. So, Jerry, I'm going to ask Jerry to come up next. Jerry, can you just introduce yourself and Zero Waste Scotland, and perhaps tell us what small producers can be doing or looking at to reduce their waste and packaging, perhaps what support is out there to help them, and also what consumers can be looking out for when they're shopping?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. Sure, and it's good to see such enthusiasm in this virtual room. I'll give you a brief intro about me first of all. So my name's Jerry Boyle from Zero Waste Scotland. I'm the hospitality sector manager, so I focus on food waste reduction. Although every time I talk to a hospitality business about food waste, it always gets back to packaging, so it is a hot topic. So I've got 15 years within hospitality as a director and owner, etc. So I understand the challenges that they face day to day, but even though now there's no such thing as a day to day. So I just want to touch on a few areas where Zero Waste can offer support or guidance. But I'll talk about food waste first, and then I'll move on to packaging and the redistribution, which we also do, which is great for local suppliers. So why do I want to focus on food waste? It doesn't grab the headlines. It's not had its blue planet moment, as we always say, and it's my job to increase the awareness, impact, and provide resources to help people prevent waste at source. Now, again, most people don't really know that food waste to landfill releases methane, which is 30 times more damaging to the atmosphere than CO2. We all just think that's a byproduct from a gassy cow. Now, to think about this, if food waste and loss were a country, it would be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter after China and the US. So as a fact, or food for thought there, if you pardon the pun. Now, the hospitality sector, which I focus on, now, if you look at the kind of the headlines there, they discard 1 in every 6 meals that's prepared. If you think about a busy Saturday night, where a chef's cooking for 600 covers, 100 of those would be wasted. Just think of that mound of food that's getting wasted every Saturday night in just one venue. Now, hospitality has undoubtedly had a troubled year, as everybody else. Businesses are struggling to survive, so it's fair to say that sustainability is maybe lower priority for them just now. But the cost savings is, with my business hat on, that can't be ignored. So saving waste will ultimately impact the bottom line. And one business, a garden centre that we helped last year, saved £22,000 just by reducing their waste, by simple interventions. So how did we help them do that? We gave them a food waste reduction plan. I would advocate this methodology to any food business, whether it's a cafe, whether it's a shop. When waste becomes a priority, when it's measured, it becomes a KPI, and it's not just an accepted consequence. The food waste strategy is 3 stages. You target, measure, and act, but not necessarily in that order. First, you need to establish the status quo, which is one of the problems we have, and nobody knows how much they're throwing out. Then you can continue to measure, monitor these figures, and then set yourself a target. Now, we want businesses to set their teams a target of how much they would like to save, how much they think is achievable, and then act on that. Some simple interventions to reduce waste, such as smaller portion sizes, reviewing the ingredients in the menu, or a switch to local suppliers, which we all know can offer fresher produce. They're more flexible as a business with smaller minimum orders. And everybody has had a renewed love for local since the coronavirus outbreak. And independent food suppliers, they got us through. They helped the local communities. Now, we are currently running a pilot with hospitality businesses running a target, measure, act 8-week challenge. So I'll share those details. I'm looking forward to getting my teeth into some of that data. We have some resources to help on our website for any business who wants to target, measure, act. It's on the Zero Waste Scotland website. Just search Target Measure Act and you'll find it, no problem. Now, packaging and single-use items. Now, it will come to no surprise to anyone here in this room that single-use items, containers, napkins, cutlery are on the increase since the outbreak, which is understandable, I guess. Customers want to feel confident that your utensils are virgin, they've not been contaminated in any way, they're straight out the wrapper. But we need to kind of kickstart the reusable options to stop the rise in the single use. We were getting so much traction beforehand, and now it's kind of plateaued, and we're reverting back to old habits. So I always ask businesses, can you go back to the good old-fashioned crockery or teaspoons instead of those wooden stirrers? Can you have your condiments in a refillable holder or just give them out when your customers ask for them? And can you let customers refill their water bottles or glasses themselves if you don't already? Just get the businesses to think outside the bin. Now, I know there is some nervousness about touch points within venues because of the current situation we're in just now. But with the right procedures in place, we can still offer reusable. So only provide single-use items such as straws and napkins when requested, because customers generally won't take them unless they're really needed. One other thing, we did a pilot previously and we charged extra. We separated the charge for the single-use cup so people could actually see how much they were saving if they actually brought a reusable. If you provide takeaway food, which a lot more venues are doing just now, just make sure you check with your local authority to make sure the packaging you're using can be recycled, and then communicate that with your customers. So that is a bit of an education that has to develop. The customers need informed. They'll jump on anything that's got the right words in there. They're a bit greenwashed. So it's about educating your customers as well. So if you have to use single-use items, which I'm not promoting in any way, shape or form, there's the UK Plastics Pact website, which we're a member of. And we've helped develop that, and there's some valuable information on there. It all looks very, very complex, but it's actually quite simple. It's a decision tree which will tell you how your business can choose the right packaging. It's the best for you and the best for the environment. Another thing I would like to touch on is our redistribution matchmaking service. Now, redistribution is vital, and Ruth touched on that, how it's great for the community. And back in March, which seems like a different decade now, we were inundated with requests both from businesses with surplus and charities that were desperately in need of food. So again, put our thinking caps on, let's matchmake them up. The service's goal is to connect suppliers with have surplus food they have no existing solution with organisations that need it most, ensuring the surpluses don't go to waste. Simple, right? So providing quality food to those who can use it and protecting the environment at the same time. Now, we'd encourage all food suppliers to get involved wherever they may be in the country. You go onto our website, look up the matchmaking service, you can register your business there, and we can link you up with a supplier or organisation who needs it. And finally, I won't bore you for too much longer. We have a food waste reduction business support service available at Zero Waste Scotland. Now, that all sounds very, very corporate, but it's not. It's there to help small suppliers, cafes, producers, anybody who wants guidance through their food waste journey. And our expert team can offer audits. Again, I don't like the word audits, it sounds a bit corporate, but we call them audits, but at the minute they're all virtual, so we're still getting some information there. So when we can we'll do on-site audits. We'll look at the procedures, measure your waste, identify hotspots, show you how to tackle that waste, and most importantly, illustrate the financial savings and environmental goals that can be achieved. So yeah, that's Zero Waste Scotland. That's what we're up to, amongst many things. And yes, DRS, the deposit return scheme that we talked about earlier on, is unfortunately been the current situation has been moved to 2022. That's what Heather was touching on. But yeah, so yeah, there's loads of information on our website, but it's really difficult to navigate. So if you need any shortcuts, get in touch with me and I will show you how to get to the information quicker.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jerry. That's absolutely brilliant. So so lots of resources we're hearing from Zero Waste Scotland. And if you correct me if I get this wrong, Jerry, but if you search for Target Measure Act on the website, then you'll get to those resources. Perhaps you can drop a link in if you have chance in the chat. Just here. That'd be absolutely brilliant. So thank you again to our 3 speakers today. Absolutely fantastic. Now we've got around about 15 to 20 minutes for questions. So I'd like to just kind of throw that open. If you have a question for any of the guys, or just a thought or a comment or something to add. Okay, well, I'll kick things off, because one of the things that kind of struck me with everybody that spoke there, I think was, well, there were 2 things really. One was collaboration. I think working together, working widely, creating networks for change seemed to come across quite powerfully. But the thing that struck me was, I think, was about, put this in the right way, but having things in sight, being able to see things. So I think, Jerry, you said, you know, the first thing you have to do is to get people to look at their waste, to you know, see where it is. It sometimes gets ignored. So actually focusing on it. I think, Ruth, you mentioned with your locals coming back again, you know, they could see that there was a place that they could kind of refill. It was right in front of them. It was very, you know, tangible. And they went, oh, I like this. They may not have gone out and looked for it, but because it was right in front of them, they were using it. And in Heather's story, I think, you know, what inspired you in the first case was that beach clean, just seeing what the impact was. So I guess my question to each of you is, what more can we do to kind of make waste kind of front and center, or make, you know, the positive side, you know, the waste reduction kind of front and center, so people can see it and have a route to do more about it?
I'll jump in on that one. Yeah, well, networks help communicate the message. It's just getting the message across to people, and I'm continually expanding my network. Webinars are great, I'll tell you that. I've spoke to more people in webinars over the past few months than I've spoke to in 3 years. You know, you can have a webinar with 300 people, but it's all about having those networks, educating people. It's just an awareness, because people don't think about it. Food waste, again, is my jam, and even as a kid, you're conditioned to think, oh, if you throw your banana skin away, there's 2 things that's going to happen. 1, somebody's going to slip on it and it'll be hilarious, and 2, it'll biodegrade by itself and it's not actually rubbish. But nobody knows about the methane thing. Nobody knows about the you know, the effect it has on greenhouse gases. It's just getting that information across to people that, again, I always say we've not had a blue planet moment. If we can get David Attenborough on one of these calls, it would be great. That would back the cause somewhat. But yeah, it's just education and just talking about it, just making it an issue. And at the point of sale, educate. I know a lot of times we don't have, if you've got, especially Ruth, because you're doing £4,000 a week, you don't have time to talk to your customers. So maybe if we get that extra member of staff that can, you know, take the time to talk to the customer and tell them, you know, about the product, the end of life, what happens at the end of a life, and can that product actually have a circular value rather than having an end of life? So it's just to open up the conversation. Don't be scared to shout it from the rooftops.
So Ruth, I'm going to ask you, as with your neighbour food hat on, what difference does it make to a customer when they can see that there's a waste reduction element to the local food they're buying? I'm presuming people buy from you for all sorts of different reasons, but is there kind of an added value in knowing that a bottle is being reused, for example?
Definitely, yes. And this is something I meant to mention when I was talking and forgot. That is something that most customers mention and tell us, that they're so grateful that they can bring the jars back and we will return it to the producer, or they can bring the bottle, or they can, like the locavore veg boxes, I think we've got customers that bring it back and it's been used for like 15 weeks in a row or something before it starts to tatter. So yeah, and that is a big thing that we do. Is there's various producers, we will take the packaging back from the customer and pass it back to the producer, and I think that is one of the primary core motivating values that our neighbourhood customers have in shopping with us. There's the local food, and there's the less packaging, and the recyclable and reusable and returnable packaging definitely is spoken about every week. And whilst we didn't get a chance to talk to many customers when we were doing £4,000, it has settled down, and we do have 4 separate collection points now, and lots of volunteers. So we are, in the past few weeks, I suppose, we can definitely feel it's calmer, and we are talking to people, and we are engaging with customers at each collection point. There's time to do that again. And yeah, it's really sad, Jerry, you were saying but we see it in any crisis. Sustainability goes out the window. We just firefight. And I'm not saying that's wrong, that's just how it is. So it was quite sad. And obviously in the COVID crisis, it's like, right, gloves, masks, throw it away after every use. So, but we were able to maintain a lot of, not so much zero waste, but absolutely minimal waste and minimal packaging. We were able to maintain throughout the neighbourhood market, which was really good. Yeah, so it's definitely a customer priority.
Steffi, do we have any questions from the chat?
Yeah, sorry, just one's popped up here. So have you encountered examples of communities monetizing waste? This person has a bakery which always has leftover bread, and would really help us to get local businesses involved if they could see the immediate benefits. I guess maybe Ruth or Jerry.
Well, I think we already had one fantastic example there from Heather with the apples. Would have just rotted back into the ground, is now a product. Is that the first time you've done something like that, Heather?
Yeah, I mean, Mum's been going on about this orchard for years and years and years, like everything just falls. I didn't even realise it was there, whatever, because you can't see it, like it is really hidden. And I think last year she had planned to take some of them to the food bank, but she had never done it. She's also like super busy. And then this year she was like, no, I'm doing something, like, we know Lisa, and we know that Lisa makes apple juice, so like she's just going to do it, and I'm going to tell everybody. And like she's been going around at the markets, asking like other people, like, do you use apples? I've got some apples for you. So hopefully, like, they'll definitely be juice, but they might also be turned into jam by another woman. And somebody else I got in contact with, I can't remember who it was. Basically, if you want free apples and you're in Coopermuir, go and get them. It's in the middle of Coopermuir. There's no lock on it. On you go. That's the first time we've done something like that. But again, that's just because it's something that's kind of definitely been in Mum's eye line. And then obviously now we've got the contacts to actually do something about it. Whereas like last year, we didn't really know what to do. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Any other examples out there of reusing what's there and turning it into a new product?
Is there not a brewery somewhere that takes, this is going to show my ignorance in beer making, but is there not a bakery that gives waste bread to a brewery to make beer? Would that work? Or is it the other way around?
No, it's the bread to beer. Jawbrew does it, and they're based in Glasgow. There's a couple of them now, but there's loads of examples out there. There was one that cropped up when I was doing a talk in Dundee. I think it was a Lithuanian guy that started it, but there's somebody in Dundee does it now. I don't have the details to hand, but it's taking coffee grounds and making specs out of the coffee grounds. Amazing.
Yeah, that's is that not there's a guy called Ryan from Dundee. He's at DJ CAD, I'm sure, or he was at DJ CAD. Yeah.
But yeah, just things like that just blow you away. It's just again thinking outside the box. What can I do with this rather than actually classify it as waste? You know, it's only waste in some people's eyes. You know, it's like the wombles. What's another man's waste is one man's treasure. You know.
Yeah. One of our neighbourhood producers, the Shellfield Farm, they're at Argyle's in Argyle somewhere. So they drop off at the shop, and noticed that somebody had brought in a big bucket of cooking apples from their garden, and we were distributing that. And so the result of that essentially is now any excess food he can pick it up and feed to his pigs. If, you know, first of all, we give it to people, but if there's something left rotting or on the verge of rotting, he will just take it back to his farm to feed his pigs. So it's just that circular, it's good.
Yeah.
One of my first jobs after my A levels, I think, was working in a kitchen, and we had a pig bin. You know, the scraps went in a pig bin, and it got collected by a farmer, presumably, and went straight off. And I think there are probably lots of complex reasons why that's not a thing anymore. But it feels like you know, that it fits in quite nicely with the hierarchy. I think you were starting to talk about, Jerry, a bit earlier about how we can use things and having a hierarchy in mind, and actually actively thinking about waste and working our way down that hierarchy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously the food waste to animal feed has got this the foot and mouth is the reason that we can't do that anymore, unfortunately. I do know some businesses, off the record, between me, you guys, the recording and YouTube, oh well, that's everybody, that do that have their own circular farm, so they can control that, so that they have a farm shop and a farm, so they can control how that is administered. But yeah, generally it's not a thing. It has been looked at in the processed animal proteins has been looked at in the future, but I couldn't tell you when that is. But yeah, so it is a shame that it couldn't be as simple as, you know. I mean, I've got a dog downstairs who I'm surprised has not howled yet, because I usually take her out at 1 o'clock. I've got a dog who takes all my food waste. So if only it was that simple and everywhere, you know.
Marion, yes, question.
Thank you. I had a question to ask to Zero Waste Scotland, but before I ask my question, I want to brag a little bit about my polytunnel. Ruth knows about it. It's a polytunnel that is entirely made of trampolines and bits of Harris fencing and reclaimed timber. It's quite big, and I made it exactly the size and the shape I wanted it. And the only thing that is new on it, apart from the plastic sheets, obviously, the polythene, is the bolts and nuts. Everything else was made by us. So, yeah, if you need the polytunnel, try to find trampolines. It's much easier to find, actually. So, but my question is about how do you tackle like waste with councils? Or this question came like later in the meeting, and I just remember that the schools in which my kids are is extremely wasteful, actually, which is quite disappointing for a small rural community-based school. And every time I asked them the question, they said I should really go to the council. So we've been kind of like inquiring about the council plans to reduce probably also food waste, but especially like cutlery and single-use plates and cardboard and stuff like that, like within the school. And it's all, it's not, our questions are not being made with concrete, ideas or plans, or it looks a bit like, it's like trying to get rid of us kind of thing. I mean, at the end of the day, they have their contracts, but I have this feeling that schools are not, it's not consistent across the council. So if one school does less waste than another school, surely there's a way. So is Zero Waste working on that a bit?
We had Shona Cherry, my Dundee counterpart. She was working on a Cities and Regions project, which had a pilot with schools. So we chose 3 schools within Dundee and Angus, and we measured their and monitored their food waste. And it made us, it astounded us the amount of food that was wasted, and so that was presented to our leadership team just a couple of months ago. The results only came in, so we thought it was. We thought, okay, it's going to be a small amount, but it was actually it's a big amount, and we're now having we're going to use that information we've got to have a kind of concrete plan of what we're going to do. But we just get the figures in, but some of the pictures that we saw of the waste, it does have some. It does open up a bit of a minefield, really, with regards to nutrition and social justice and a lot of other things. So we're going to have to work with those stakeholders to get it through. It's not a quick fix. And just a wee anecdotal story for you. My son, he lives in Inverness, and he was at lunch yesterday. Now, with the physical distancing, my son got 5 minutes to eat his spaghetti bolognese. So those figures are only going to go up because he can't eat a meal I prepare for him in half an hour, never mind in 5 minutes. So those figures are only going to go up because of the current circumstances. But we are working on it. As I say, we're gobsmacked by the figures that we got when we did the pilots up in Dundee. So hopefully we can roll that out to several pilots throughout Scotland to see if it's different areas or different local authorities or different contractors. And then approach it from there. But yes, it's definitely on the radar. Yeah.
Fantastic. We have about 1 or 2 more minutes for any last questions. Okay, if there are no last questions, unless you guys want to have a burning point you felt you didn't make earlier. No, I think we're all good then. Well, look, I'm going to say thank you, huge thanks to our 3 speakers. Heather from Bad Gal Boocha. If you are new to kombucha, go and try it. It'll change your life. Ruth, Ruth from the Hub G63. Go and have a look at all of the activities that they're doing. It's a fantastic project there. And thank you so much, Jerry, for sharing the projects and the links there that are in the chat there from Zero Waste Scotland and the ways that you can find more resources and more information and more support if you're looking to reduce waste and also be a bit more aware as a consumer as well. So thank you to everybody. Do check out other sessions in our Gather Around Local Food series, and do follow FEL for more similar video sessions and training sessions and all sorts in the future as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Bye.
Thanks, Steffi. Thanks, Ruth.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.